All right, welcome to Sensations of Pleasure in Birth. I'm Sheila Kumar. Hey, I'm here today with a mother of three who describes birth as one of the most powerful erotic experiences of her life. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
I
Great.
love that quote. I love that idea that birth can be one of the most powerful erotic experiences of your life. And I think that's a message that really needs to get out there because most women are not thinking about birth in that way. So thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story.
I'm happy to do it.
I want to hear more. I want to hear more. I want to hear the details. Like what were your births like? How are they the most powerful erotic experiences of your life?
Well, so the first birth wasn't quite like that. I was more numb and out of my body and didn't feel connected to myself. And that really affected me. And so I really afterwards was like, that's not what I want for the next birth. So I want to find the connection with myself. I want it to be deep. I want it to be full. And so I really worked on that. And it happened. I surrounded myself with it. I think that's really important, to listen to other people's stories about that, watch videos on that, so that it helped me see other women that had had really awesome water births where they felt amazing while they were doing it. And so I just kind of took that psyche into me and realized I could change the paradigm. I could change the way I thought it was supposed, going to be. And so the second birth was crazy, magical, alive. There were candles in the house and things felt like they were glittering, and I had all sorts of amazing foods. But really, I was just in the hot water birth tub, which opens my body up. And I just felt like, that hugging sensation of the contractions. But I would really go into it so deeply that I was opening up more and more, that I could feel my cervix actually opening up so wide. And it was kind of an incredible sensation through my pelvis, like it would spread through my bottom, my tush, my vagina, like up through my belly. And I was able to go into the beauty of it. And every time I chanted and would open my mouth and say words, it would just keep opening me up further. So it felt like a lot of vibrations through my body. Sometimes electricity. I mean, I think the sensation of this large being with so much energy in itself.
Yeah.
So much energy in itself. And then I felt like the universe was in the room with me, like love, God, like whatever you want to say, like whatever support you want to say. Like I felt like my beingness was so massive. The baby's energy was so massive. The support from the universe was so massive. And all of that was moving through my body, through my core, and it also felt expanded outward. And so all of that energy was like these waves, these intensity moving down through my body. It's going in the opposite direction really as sex, but it's moving down through my womb, through this cervix. And I could feel all the layers of the cervix, I mean, down through my bones, and out. And it was it is intense, but it's also so massive. It just rippled through my whole being, not just my body, but my whole being. It completely transformed me. So wow. I feel like I had this pleasure, like, from my womb, like, normally when you have sex, it's just up to the cervix. And of course you can feel it through your whole body, but literally your body is open. And so you're feeling it from your womb down through your cervix into your canal and through your opening and out. And that ripples through the emotional body, the mental body, it's your spiritual body. It's kind of beyond words, how that transformed into everything I did afterwards.
I'm just like, let's just pause there for a second, because that was like, in and of itself, your description of it was so orgasmic and so delicious. Thank you for going into that depth. And, I think the question is really like, why did it feel so good? And I don't know if you have an answer for that, but like, did you expect for it to feel that way? Or were you like looking for that kind of experience? Yeah, I'm just curious, like if you had to understand why is it that most women experience pain, but you had the gift, even amidst all the intensity, to experience such a beautiful sense of like connection to the universe and to feel these sensations and vibrations as big as they are in the light of pleasure.
I knew that it could be something you could enjoy. I didn't know it was going to get to that place. I'm trying to remember if I knew about birth, orgasmic birth and ecstatic birth at the second birth or by the third birth. Mm-hmm. I think I might have, I mean, I was in touch with like unassisted childbirth and, you know, and embracing yourself or doing hypnotherapy, doing things that you could be more in touch with your body in a different way.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to get so big. I didn't know the pleasure of it, or seeing the intensity of it. It was what's going to get so big. It's kind of like, oh, I'm really nervous, but maybe you're really excited. You know, there's another side to it, and tapping into that is what it's about. And I love my body. I love tapping into my body. I had that beforehand, and so I think that did play a role in being in touch with the pieces of it, like it being in the presence of the intensity of it. If you can tap into that, you can open up to the beauty in that, not pain in that, not displeasure, not contraction, you know, just opening up into the sensation so big. You're like, wait, it's sort of like looking at a painting. You see the painting, but if you start to go into the details, you see the details, like there's so much pleasure in the details.
Yeah.
It could be intense. You might be in fear at the beginning, but like for me, I just got in the water, I relaxed. And then I just got into the sensations, into the presence of it. And I just opened up and allowed myself, I guess, to be in my body. I wasn't in my head. I was in more the animalistic part of me, the wild. When do we get to be wild like that? Really wild, you know?
Awesome. I feel like there are two things that you said that I really want to highlight for everybody watching. Like you said the word presence and you said the word sensations. And I think, and then like wild too on top of that. I think those are all really key pieces, like to be able, because when you're fearful, right, like you're out of your body to an extent, you're in your head, but like presence and that connection to sensation is so important. I'm really curious about like the waves moving through you. Was it actually orgasmic? Like, did it feel like an orgasm?
That's such a big topic for me because I'm always like, did I have an orgasm during sex? You know, clitoral orgasm's so obvious, you know, like, okay, I had an orgasm, you know, and I can have full body clitoral orgasms, right? Yeah. You know, shorter ones. The internal ones are so confusing for me that when I go to describe it, I'm always like, well, I don't know. I mean, I had this experience and I cried so deeply, you know, people would describe that as an orgasm. I had this experience where I literally felt the energy, you know, shoot from my vagina up into my belly, up into my heart, and then it exploded. It felt like lightning. I'm like, well, I guess that's an orgasm. And then the, you know, waves of energy moving through my entire body. To me, that is a full body, full energetic orgasm. So I don't even like the idea of defining what an orgasm is, because I think it gets people in trouble. Like they start looking for something and pinpointing something, and then you're in your head about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I had these, a lot of different sensations that I would categorize as orgasmic, not just the waves, you know, but, so if I got really into the feeling of my cervix opening and it moving outward, and it was intense and not quite burning, but that sensation of like burning or heat or fire would move down to my legs and then up, and the waves that would roll through me, like up my spine, you know, they would roll up my spine, up my neck, you know, out into like what felt like the world, or, you know, beyond. And even afterwards, so after the birth, I was in the waves. I was still feeling the waves moving through my body. So they would move through the muscles, the tissues, but also move very much so, especially for me, energetically, through my body, sensations, pulsing sensations and waves, ripples moving through my body in random times, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting full body chills just listening to you, and I can see you almost like re-experiencing it in the memory. And the reason I ask, and I think you're so right about like not defining the word in terms of an orgasm or not, but people are always like, are you just like glossing things over, Sheila? Are you just making things seem like, you know, oh, it could be orgasmic because I'm so happy, or like, is it like that? And I want people to know actually like specifically the sensations. And so you just did such a beautiful job describing that. Thank you so much. And I know that your third birth you shared with me was very, very different, but also pleasurable. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I want to be clear that it was very physical. Like, I mean, at birth, it was very physical. The sensations through my body were very physical. Um, all the different kinds, there were so many different kinds of pleasure sensations that were going through my body, and they're all very, very physical. So that's important to know, and it wasn't like I was some like tantra master going into the birth or anything like that. Well, I wasn't. I'm just like a woman. Yes, I'm in touch with my body. I enjoy my body. So that's important to note. Yeah, the third birth, I had a lot more angst heading into that. A lot more intensity. In the angst kind of way, and probably some fear. And so, that birth was very different. It was also incredibly pleasurable, and it was actually fast also, but it was a different kind of pleasure because I was in it. It was kind of like, for me, it's like I dance. And when I dance, you can dance in love and joy. You can dance your anger. You can dance your fear. When I dance and I dance the shadow sides, I find the pleasure there because I'm really being present with my emotions, really being present with what's there. And then all this beauty comes out, and these emotions come out, but it feels really good at the same time. It's really amazing to me when that happens. And so the third birth was like that. Like I was more angsty, and my friend called and was like, enjoy the birth. And I was like, and I like threw the phone down, you know what I mean? I was more, maybe a little more compacted in the feelings, but like the passion was in me, but it was just more fiery, so the sensations were just a little bit different, but I still was having orgasms in my actual cervix, my cervix opening up. I love when my cervix opened up wide. Like it's so intense, but it's like my whole pelvis would just open up. And I love it. I found it so beautiful and amazing. I just do. I'm still looking for that. I think I'm still looking for orgasms that make me feel how big I did in the births, because nothing was as big as that. It was so massive. So I feel like I'm lacking in some description in like that, even that, I want to give it physicality, like what were the sensations that I was feeling, but I still was feeling percolations through my body and waves through my body. And even though I was having more of an intense time, or maybe a little bit more of a fight with it, or fight with, I knew to open up. I knew to open up and just be with those sensations and roll with it. And because I did that, it was just actually ended up being massive and awesome. And I feel like I overdid it. Like when I look back on the birth now, I thought it was pretty spectacular.
Well, I think it's really important for people to know that it doesn't all have to look a certain way. And that's one of the things I love about your story is, you had one birth where it sounds like you were like fully in it, full hearted. And then this other birth where you were like, maybe like wrestling with yourself a little bit more and you had like more fear come up. But that the fact that it was still physically pleasurable, that you were still experiencing these sensations, these waves, is really powerful. And it's really good to know that, you can feel differently. Your birth can look differently, and you can still tap into that pleasure.
Yeah. And you know what, as I'm listening to you talk, it was sort of like I would just click into my head a little bit more in the third birth and be like, is this going to take a long time? Because I don't want it to, and then I'd go drop back into my body and be in like my body, which was awesome and powerful and like, intense. And like the kids were there, like it was just amazing. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'd get into the power of it. It was just different. Like, sex and this orgasm is different, or this kid is different. This personality is different than this kid. So yes, the personality was a little bit different, but it was still like massively pleasure filled. So much so that as I've said, several years afterwards, I literally would feel it in my body, in my cervix, in my pelvis, in my bones, in my muscles and tissues, in my belly, like my breast, like my heart. I would just be like, if I just happened to that birth or told somebody that story, I would start convulsing because I was literally in the birth feeling so good.
Yeah.
That would just, I'd be hiking and I'd be like, or carrying the baby and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm in the birth again.
Oh my gosh, Lisa, your transmission is so powerful that I feel like even in how you're describing it, we can feel it. We're getting some of that juiciness and the pleasure of that. And that's so It's so good. Thank you so much. It's really, really consciousness raising. And I think it's really important for women to know that they can have this kind of experience. And when you tell it the way that you do and we can feel it, it becomes so much more real for everybody. I'm curious about, like, I love this idea that like you were tapping into it, you know, as a mother, that you tapped into it for years. I want to know, like, how did it reverberate into motherhood for you? Like, did it fuel you in any way? Were you able to source from it? Like, what were the, like, the ripples out into your mothering?
Yes, that's a great question. And that's definitely what I experienced. So it was so volcanic, the experience. And it felt like the biggest communication I'd ever received. Um, I think, gosh, that I feel like is a whole conversation itself, the idea of it being a communication.
Yeah.
But I think that communication that, like, I stood, you know, on one hand, I stood in the face of something and I stood my ground and I was like, I'm going to be in pleasure during this experience, right? And I'm going to do it my way.
Mm.
That led into my parenting, right? I'm going to make these choices and I'm going to do it my way, even when I'm afraid. You know, I'm afraid to stand up to society, you know, family, other people telling me it's wrong, whatever. You can't have that, whatever. So mentally it fed that, right? And or it just gave me the strength in general to have that. Also, like, I think because I was in so much pleasure, that orgasm translated into how I was with my kids. Like, when I stare into their eyes, I'm in orgasmic pleasure, you know, as much as you could hike and you can go out there in nature and, you know, really be orgasmic, right? With this, because it was such a massive life force. I think it opened me up so wide that when I'm with them, like, that bond, we all bond with our kids and we feel love, but I, like, can feel like this essence or this orgasmic feeling, this bliss. It really did affect me. You know, it really did. It really became a part of my parenting as a foundation, you know, and in the sense of love and the sense of energy and how I parent and just being, you know, just the being quality with the kids.
So moving to hear you say that. And the thing that, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the thing that really comes up for me and gets me really emotional is to feel into, wow, like, imagine if every child was born like that. Imagine if every mother had that sensation when she was raising her children, that she had that bond and that love and that, like, life force energy moving through her. It just, when you vision into what is possible, like, for the future of the planet, it's really amazing.
Yes. And that's definitely, like, a goal for me. You know, that's what I want to see us evolving into, because we don't know that. We've been clamped down so much.
Yeah.
Really, that is who we are. You know, we are this massive life force and the ability to be in pleasure. And I think be in pleasure together, you know, as parents, as people, as a community. I'd love to see that vision open up and, you know, us really being in that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, because I think you're doing that today. Like, you're really opening that up for all of us and for everybody watching now and later. I can just see on the comments on the Facebook page, on and on, like, so much gratitude for hearing your story. And I do want to hear more about this conversation you mentioned, how, like, your birth felt like a conversation. Can you just talk about that for a bit?
Oh gosh, I could talk about that for hours. um, there's just so many nuances. Like, every little thing was like a conversation. Like, I felt like I was learning. In my body, right? My body was learning, like, not mentally, but like every sensation opens something up. Like, you know, if you exercise, like, for me, I rock climb. If I do a move I'd never done before, now it's in my body. Now I can do that again. So I feel like my whole body kept opening up because I was having ping pong ball sensations of pleasure everywhere. So I think it opened up more, and that's a communication to me.
Okay.
I think this communication of the life force moving through me was really massive, and what that really means, or what that could be. The communication of being with God or love, again, universe, however you want to place it. To me, that was a really big communication, like how massive it was, and in the room, and probably I only scraped the surface of that.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, that was a communication of being with that. And being in connection with it, being in literal communication with it on a level that wasn't up here, you know, just the flow of that. Uh, the communication that I am powerful, like I'm massively powerful, like I can do it. Like, and really just the communication of allowing it to happen, you know, getting out of the way, like getting into the juice of it, like, and just allowing it to move through my body. And then I think from that, I can do anything. You know, of course I can go into fear about something if I want to do something, but I can actually do anything. I think that communication came through pretty loud and clearly, you know, like, and to choose pleasure. Like I chose pleasure for that. Like, you know, I can even, no matter how down we get, no matter how dark it gets, you can still find the beauty in something. You can still say, well, I'm going to just do this one thing for myself. I'm going to find this one place of pleasure. I'm going to find the pleasure. I'm going to lay down. I feel like crap. But if I just breathe and I just allow it, oh, wait, what's that sensation moving through my calf or my toe or my inner thigh or what, you know, like it's there. It's right there, actually. And that was another communication, I think, that I got from it. So it's just a very fast form of learning something and being in something. It's just experience.
So powerful. So powerful. And I love that, you know, all the things you just shared are like at the intersection of like sexuality and spirituality and empowerment. And it's like exactly this intersection where I think birth is one of the most activating experiences that you can have, because you do have like your sexuality is really in the mix. I mean, you're birthing with your sexual body, right? And spirituality, you're bringing this new being into the world. And as you describe these amazing connections to the universe and all of this energy moving through you, and all of that, like empowering you as a woman, as a mother to raise like the children, the next generation. This is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And that's it. You said it, you know, and for me, like, those are my places I want to go to. So to be able to like actually get to do that and experience it and have it be so massive and like the largest turn on ever, you know, it just blew me away. Like it just blew me away, you know. I'm so grateful. Like, you know, I know I'm not done, but there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, I had that. So I'm good. Like, I'm really good now. I got to do that. Like it was.
And I'm curious, like, I know you touched on this like a bit in relation to your motherhood, but do you ever like consciously source from it? Like when you're having moments of like, oh, I can't do this, or this is so hard, or feeling like victim-y or whiny, like, do you ever like remind yourself like of the energetics of what you experienced and have that help you, you know, move forward?
I did that for years, many years, and it was natural. You know, it would just it would come to me, not like, let me choose a tool in my toolbox to get through this moment. It would just happen. It just happened for so long. Yeah, now that probably does happen somewhat. Well, you're bringing up a good point. I feel like I should be doing that more often, actually. I think that's my takeaway from this conversation for myself. I think there's a part of me that feels massive, but it doesn't always come out, you know, it could come out a little bit more like aggressively, you know, or instead. But I think it does source me all the time, because ultimately I'm looking for that, or I want us all to be in that, or my wish would be that we were all in that kind of space, you know, moving through time and space. But yeah, so I don't know. I have to think about that. I feel like that could be part 2. I'm going to practice that. Let's see what happens. But yeah, for many years, I mean, my kids are much older now. My youngest is 10, 17, and 20. So for many years, like many, many years, I was absolutely in the birth, and that would just carry me, whether I was tired or upset, or I had to talk to the kids about something, or my husband, like, yes, it would just be right there sourcing me constantly. Definitely.
So cool. So cool. This is like a big part of the work I do with expectant moms, is teaching them how to really source from their own bodies, right? Like what you described earlier, like lie down. Okay. What's the sensation in my foot? Where's the pleasure in my body? Like once we start to really like pay attention to the pleasure in our body, how it flows, accessing that, creating those networks, then you can source from it anywhere and take it into the birthing room. And I love your story because you're really showing us how once you have that experience, that like transmission, that communication, the way you describe it in the birthing room, like that can really fuel you for years and years after, really empower you on so many levels that we can't even conceive of right now.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I don't even know. It's still working in me, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, I'm distracted by other things, or I'm putting my fire into other things, right?
Yeah.
I'm experiencing different parts of myself. And there's pleasure in that too. It's just different. It looks different.
Yeah.
And really, you know, I do think that my practice is just shifting from birth to maybe more of a different kind of birthing of myself. So whether it's dance or self-pleasure or sex, or like really cultivating that, you know, cultivating it spiritually and cultivating that energy, sexual energy, that life force energy, and then taking that out into the world or being with the kids. Yeah, I think that's extremely important. Like, I think that's a must, actually.
Yeah, that rebirth of yourself. You know, you've gone through like the nitty gritty of those early years with young children, and now you're in a phase where you're rebirthing yourself and tapping into what's available for you in your body.
Yeah.
I know that I feel like we could talk forever. There's one other thing that you shared with me that I really want to highlight before we end the conversation, which was you talked about how having support enabled you to open to like waves of orgasmic pleasure. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little about that.
Right. So I would say support started a long time before, actually, now that I'm, you know, when you just said that to me, like it started with like reading books that's only supported that, you know, talking to people that only supported that, I did flow sessions with my friend Taylor Call, like that supported that and literally created the foundation for me to do them. That's massive support. It's like an architect building something before you go and do it, so that you can just enjoy the birth then and really be in it. You know, and then it was like, okay, I need the birthing tub in time. And, you know, my husband, can you set this up? And can you set the water up? And can we make sure we have all the food? You know, people do this anyway, right? You make sure you have all the food in the house beforehand and it's ready to go. And setting up the midwife or your doula or whoever's going to be in your room. What do you want? Not just what do you want from here, but how do you want to feel? Mm-hmm. And how can you transmit that to them so that they know, so that they're in that energy, they're in that space, and they know how to support it. You know, what do you really need? And then while I was there, I loved, for the second birth, I really loved having my midwife there, you know, because she just helped me get out of the tub and helped me with the placenta when I was birthing it, and, you know, helped me get to the couch and, you know, covered me in all my blankets and everything. And my body was shaking because the energy was so massive. Like, again, it was orgasmic energy and birth energy, and that's massive. And so my body was shaking, and like, it was amazing, you know? And they were doing everything else, you know, they were cleaning up, they were making sure I had whatever food I wanted to be eating, whatever liquids I wanted to be drinking. Like, all I had to do was lay there with my son and just stare at him in awe, you know, in that awe and the bliss and the wonder, because he's complete opposite of me. And I was just like, wow, like, you know, and let him eventually, you know, crawl into my breast to start, you know, suckling. Like, I just got to literally be in the ecstasy, the beauty, the joy, the love, but like, and like that awesome quality of connecting on this new energy with my son. I didn't have to do anything else. You know, it was all being taken care for me. And that let me really be in my feminine and, you know, be in this new space. You know, I birthed myself, I birthed my son. Like, I'm sure I birthed everybody else in the room at the time, in a way, you know, right? And I could just be in it. That's huge. And, you know, and setting yourself up afterwards for that. What do you need after the birth, you know? And the third birth, my midwife didn't show up until after I gave birth, which was awesome. I actually, you know, kind of wanted to know that I could do that. But it was awesome because she showed up, and again, she helped me with the placenta and helped me walk upstairs. Like, I just could lean on her and just feel this other beautiful, feminine, soft body on me, you know, and she just put me into bed. And I didn't have anything else to do. You know, everybody else took care of the food and making sure I had blankets or, you know, whatever I needed.
This is really important. And I want to like highlight it even more than you already did, because what Lisa's describing is actually like, she didn't have to think about anything, right? And the process of everything being taken care for her allowed her presence, allowed her connection to sensation. And I think in our culture, we're so taught like, how much can you do? How much can you achieve? How much can you handle, right? Like, we're taught to be like big in that way, but birth actually asks the opposite of us. Birth actually asks us to find our strength, by allowing other people to take care of things so we can be present, so we can be connected to sensation. Lisa, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your story and being just so eloquent in your descriptions of the pleasure that you experienced in birth. I know I got really high off of it.
Oh, thank you so much. I did too. I'm sweating and feel all warm and hot. And I just want to say at the end, when I was listening to you highlight that, it's incredibly important. That also carried into my motherhood. That sense of presence as a strength, as a power, as a way of actually getting things done, actually without doing anything, with being in the presence, being in the love. Like, I mean, that also is something I learned and carried into motherhood. So it is extremely important to be able to.
Because as a mom, like, you can't do everything yourself. If you try to do everything yourself, you're going to be miserable. The more support you have, the better.
So thank you so much. I really loved being here. I love supporting you. I love supporting the community. And I just want women to know, like, yeah, it's definitely possible. You can just be it. Go for it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. And for anybody watching that wants to know, hey, how can I have this experience? How can I get more information? I offer a complimentary training called the Expectant Mama's Guide to Ecstatic Birth, where we walk you through the different pieces, from like opening to pleasure to surrounding yourself to support, and so much more. So I'll put the link for that under this video as well. Thank you all for watching. Thanks again, Lisa. Bye, everyone.